Most people think the Appalachian Mountains are peaceful. They picture rolling hills, whispering trees, and endless trails where you can walk for days without seeing another soul. But those who live here know better. These woods are old. Older than memory, older than the towns scattered around them. And sometimes, the mountains remind you just how small and unimportant you really are. I learned that lesson one cold autumn night, deep in a hollow that locals told me to stay away from. I was 24 at the time, a wanderer who loved hiking more than anything. I'd been traveling the Appalachian Trail section by section, moving south before winter hit. I stopped in a small town in West Virginia, the kind of place where every face seemed familiar with one another but turned suspicious when they looked at me. The man at the gas station was the one who warned me. I had asked him about the trail that cut through a place called Mason's Hollow. His eyes darkened immediately. "You don't want to go down there," he muttered, glancing at the woods like something might crawl out any second. "People hear things in that hollow. See things that don't belong. You stick to the main ridge. Trust me." I should have listened. But when you're young and stubborn, warnings feel more like invitations. That afternoon I strapped on my pack and started toward the hollow. The trail sloped downward, trees crowding in on both sides until the light seemed to dim even though the sun was still high. The air grew colder, heavy, like I had walked into a different season. By the time I reached the creek at the bottom, the forest had gone silent. No birds. No squirrels. Just the faint trickle of water over rocks. I remember thinking how strange it was. Appalachian woods are usually alive with sound. I set up camp by a flat patch of ground near the creek. As the fire crackled, I tried to shake the uneasy feeling. The shadows seemed to stretch longer than they should, twitching like they were alive. That's when I heard it. A whistle. It was faint, almost delicate, drifting through the trees. At first I thought it was the wind, but the sound was too clear, too deliberate. 3 notes, slow and careful. I froze, staring into the darkness. "Hello," I called out. My voice sounded too loud, swallowed instantly by the hollow. No answer. Just silence. I told myself it had to be another hiker. Maybe someone messing around. But unease coiled tight in my stomach. I kept the fire burning higher than usual and barely slept, my knife gripped tight in my hand. The next morning I packed up quickly and pushed farther along the trail. The forest seemed different in the daylight, less threatening, but I couldn't shake the memory of that whistle. Around noon I found something odd. A pile of stones stacked in a neat little tower right in the middle of the trail. Not natural, not random. Someone had placed them there carefully, each rock balanced on the next. I walked around it, uneasy. A few miles later I found another. And another. By the time evening came I'd counted 6 stone towers, each one larger than the last. That night I didn't light a fire. I sat in the dark, wrapped in my sleeping bag, heart hammering at every snapping twig. The silence pressed down heavier than before, and the smell in the air had changed. Damp, earthy, but with something sour beneath it, like rot. And then the whistle came again. This time closer. 3 notes. Long, slow. I clamped a hand over my mouth to stop my breathing from sounding too loud. My skin prickled. Something was out there, moving just beyond the edge of where my eyes could see. Branches snapped. Leaves crunched. And then I saw it. At first I thought it was a man. Tall, thin, moving with slow, deliberate steps. But as it stepped into the moonlight, my blood ran cold. His body was wrong. Too long in the limbs, shoulders hunched forward like they didn't fit the rest of it. Its skin looked pale and stretched as if it had been pulled too tight. The head tilted unnaturally like a broken doll. And in its hand, it held a bundle of twigs bound together with something dark. It stood there, swaying slightly, watching me. The firelight from the night before must have drawn it. Or maybe it had been watching me all along. The whistle came again. But its lips never moved. The sound was inside my head. I don't remember moving, but suddenly I was crawling backward, heart racing so hard I thought I'd faint. The thing tilted its head further, then dropped the twig bundle on the ground. The sound it made was soft, like bones clattering together. And then it melted back into the trees. I stayed awake until dawn, terrified to move, terrified to breathe. When the sun rose, I found the twig bundle lying only a few feet from where I'd slept. Up close I saw what it was, sticks tied together with long black strands of hair. Human hair. I don't think I've ever packed up camp so fast in my life. I ran most of the way out of that hollow, not caring about the weight of my pack or the bruises from tripping over roots. The farther I got, the more sound returned to the woods. Birds chirping, squirrels rustling. It was like stepping back into the real world. When I stumbled into town, pale and shaking, the same man from the gas station saw me. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Told you not to go down there." I left that town the same day and never went back. Even now, years later, I hear that whistle sometimes. Usually when I'm alone, when the night is too quiet. 3 slow notes rising from nowhere. And I know without a doubt that whatever lives in Mason's Hollow remembers me. And maybe one day it'll come looking. If these stories from the Appalachian Mountains send a chill down your spine, don't forget to subscribe for more, and share this video with friends who think they're brave enough to listen in the dark. The Appalachian Mountains are filled with stories of old cabins hidden deep in the woods. Some belong to hunters, some to moonshiners, and some, no one remembers who built them. People say if you find one that's not on any map, you should keep walking. Because not all cabins are empty. I learned that the hard way one November when a storm forced me off the main trail. I'd been hiking for 3 days trying to beat the early snow. My plan was to reach a shelter before nightfall, but clouds rolled in faster than expected. By late afternoon, the sky turned an ugly gray, and the wind howled through the trees like wolves. The rain started as a drizzle, then quickly became a downpour. My jacket soaked through in minutes. My boots slipped on wet leaves, and every step down the narrow ridge trail felt like a mistake waiting to happen. By the time the sun dipped, I was desperate for shelter. That's when I saw it, a faint line of smoke rising between the trees. At first I thought I imagined it, but as I pushed through the brush, there it was, a cabin. It looked ancient, made from rough-cut logs blackened with age. The roof sagged, but smoke curled lazily from the stone chimney, proof that someone was inside. Relief surged through me. I climbed the short path to the front porch and knocked on the door. The sound echoed strangely like the wood was hollow. No answer. I knocked again harder. "Hello? I'm just looking for shelter. I won't bother you." The door creaked open on its own. Now I should have turned around right then. No sane person walks into an abandoned cabin that opens itself. But cold and exhaustion dull good judgment. I stepped inside. The air was warmer, faintly smoky, and carried the smell of old wood. The interior was sparse. A table, 2 chairs, a stone fireplace with embers glowing faintly. But what made me pause were the walls. Every inch of them was carved. Symbols, faces, spirals, and shapes I couldn't understand. Some looked like animals, some like people with stretched bodies, their mouths wide open in silent screams. I told myself it was just the work of a bored hunter. Nothing more. I dropped my pack near the table and held my hands out to the fire. The warmth was weak but better than nothing. That's when I noticed the chair. It was pulled back slightly from the table as if someone had just been sitting there. And on the table itself was a wooden bowl filled with water. The water rippled, like something had disturbed it moments before I walked in. I backed up a little, uneasy. "Hello?" I tried again, my voice shaking this time. No response. I told myself someone must live here. Maybe they'd stepped out to gather wood. Maybe they'd be back soon. That was the only explanation that made sense. But as I settled down in the corner, exhaustion finally pulling me under, I swore I heard something moving upstairs. Slow, dragging footsteps. I woke hours later in the dark. The fire had burned low. My pack, which I'd left zipped, was lying open. My food had been taken out, unwrapped, and placed neatly on the table. I sat frozen, staring at it. Someone, or something, had been in the room while I slept. Before I could react, the footsteps came again. From above. Slow, deliberate. Crossing the floorboards directly overhead. My throat went dry. The cabin only had 1 set of stairs and they were right across from me. If whatever was upstairs came down, I'd see it. I waited, every nerve in my body screaming. The footsteps stopped. And then, in the silence, I heard something far worse. Breathing. Not the slow, even breathing of sleep, but a harsh, rattling inhale, followed by a long, wet exhale. Right above me. I don't know how long I sat there, too terrified to move. My flashlight lay in my pack, but I didn't dare reach for it. The firelight flickered weakly, shadows twitching across the walls full of carvings. Then, without warning, a loud creak echoed from the stairs. Something was coming down. I grabbed my knife, heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. The first shadow appeared on the wall. A long arm, joint bent wrong, fingers dragging along the wood. I didn't wait to see the rest. I lunged for the door, yanking it open so hard it nearly tore off the hinges. Cold night air rushed in, along with the sound of the storm still raging outside. I sprinted into the trees, branches whipping my face, mud sucking at my boots. Behind me I heard it. The door slamming open. And something heavy, too heavy to be human, thundering down the porch steps after me. I don't know how long I ran. Minutes, hours, it all blurred together. The forest seemed endless, the storm swallowing every sound except my ragged breath. But eventually the ground leveled out and I stumbled onto the main trail. I collapsed, gasping, my legs shaking so bad I couldn't stand. When I finally looked back, there was nothing. No cabin. No lights. No smoke. Just the endless black of the trees. The next day, I limped into the nearest ranger station, still soaked, still shaking. I told the ranger what I'd seen, desperate for some kind of explanation. He stared at me for a long time, then said, "You're not the first to come in with a story like that." I blinked at him. "So, you know about the cabin?" He leaned forward. "Listen carefully. If you ever see smoke in these woods and you can't find the person who lit it, keep walking. The mountains don't like to be disturbed. And sometimes they send something to remind you." I never went back. But even now, whenever I smell wood smoke on a cold night, I remember that cabin. The carvings on the walls. The bowl of rippling water. And the sound of footsteps just above my head. If these stories from the Appalachian Mountains send a chill down your spine, don't forget to subscribe for more, and share this video with friends who think they're brave enough to listen in the dark. The Appalachians are full of ghost stories, phantom miners, wandering spirits, strange lights that lead hikers off the trail. Most of the time people laugh them off. But anyone who has spent a night on Black Elk Ridge knows the mountains don't tell stories for fun. Sometimes they're warnings. It was supposed to be a simple camping trip. Me, my cousin Jake, and his girlfriend, Mariah, planned to spend a weekend backpacking the ridge before winter shut it down. We weren't experienced hikers, but Jake had bought all the gear and wanted to do something real before the year ended. By late afternoon on the first day, the ridge looked endless. Trees stretched forever in both directions, and the horizon was hidden by fog. The trail narrowed until we had to walk single file. That's when Mariah spotted something strange. "Do you guys see that?" she whispered. At first I thought she meant the fog. But then I saw it too, a faint bluish glow ahead, weaving between the trees like a lantern. Jake frowned. Must be another hiker. But there was no sound. No footsteps. No rustle of gear. Just that pale light moving smoothly, almost floating. We followed it for a while, curiosity pulling us deeper into the woods. The light always stayed the same distance ahead, never closer, never farther. After 20 minutes I stopped. "This doesn't feel right," I said. "We should stick to the trail." But Jake laughed. "It's probably someone's campsite. Maybe they'll share a fire." Reluctantly I followed. The light led us down a slope into a clearing none of us recognized. At the center was a circle of stones, blackened from old fires. But no tent. No people. Just silence. The glow flickered, then blinked out like a candle. Mariah grabbed Jake's arm. "Where did it go?" Jake shrugged uneasily. Maybe it was a reflection? But reflections don't move like that. We set up camp anyway, too tired to hike back up the ridge. As night fell, the air grew bitterly cold, and the silence pressed in thick and heavy. Around midnight, I woke to movement outside the tent. At first, I thought it was Jake heading to the trees. But then I saw the glow. The same bluish light hovered just beyond the clearing, swaying back and forth. I nudged Jake awake. "It's back." He unzipped the tent halfway, peering out. "What the hell?" Mariah stirred, groggy. "Is it another camper?" We all watched as the glow drifted closer, weaving between trees. It wasn't a lantern. It wasn't a flashlight. Up close, it looked like a ball of fire, bluish-white, floating 3 feet above the ground. And then, as if it realized we were watching, it split into two. The orbs circled the clearing slowly, like predators testing the edge of prey. The air grew icy, our breath clouding inside the tent. "I don't like this," Mariah whispered, clutching Jake's arm. Neither did I. The light stopped suddenly on the far side of the clearing. They hovered together, pulsing brighter and brighter until the whole forest glowed. And then they vanished. The silence that followed was worse. We didn't sleep after that. At dawn, we packed up quickly and started back toward the ridge. None of us spoke, our nerves stretched thin. By mid-morning, the fog thickened again and we realized something horrifying. We were lost. The trail was gone. No blazes on trees. No footprints behind us. Just endless forest. Jake cursed under his breath. We must have circled wrong. Mariah's voice cracked. But we followed the path. We didn't leave it. That's when I saw the stone circle again. The same clearing from last night. We had walked in a loop. Panic set in. We tried 3 different directions, but every path led back to the circle. It was as if the forest had rearranged itself to trap us there. By the third loop the sun was sinking again. That's when the lights returned. This time there were 3 of them. They hovered higher, brighter, circling us faster and faster. The air buzzed with a low hum that made my teeth ache. Jake shouted, "Stay back," and hurled a rock at one. It passed straight through, hitting a tree. The orb didn't even flicker. Mariah screamed as one of them swooped closer, stopping inches from her face. For a second I saw something inside it, shapes like faces pressed against glass. Mouths open in silent cries. I grabbed her hand and pulled her back. "We have to run." We bolted into the trees, branches tearing at our clothes. The lights followed, weaving effortlessly between trunks. No matter how fast we ran, they stayed just behind, humming louder and louder. My lungs burned. My legs felt like lead. Just when I thought we'd collapse, Jake stumbled and fell hard. The lights swarmed him. I'll never forget the sound he made, half scream, half gurgle, before the glow swallowed him whole. His body twisted unnaturally, bending backward as if every bone was breaking. Then, in a blinding flash, he was gone. Nothing left. Just the lights, pulsing brighter, before drifting back into the trees. Mariah and I kept running, sobbing, until we burst onto a gravel service road. We collapsed, too terrified to look back. A ranger truck eventually found us hours later, headlights cutting through the fog. When we told him what happened, his face went pale. "You saw them, didn't you?" he muttered. I nodded weakly. He stared into the woods, then said, "Black Elk Ridge has always had lights. Folks call them spirit fires. They say they're the souls of people who got lost out here, trapped forever. That's why we warn people off this ridge." I wanted to argue, to demand proof, but the words stuck in my throat. Because deep down, I knew Jake hadn't just vanished. The ridge had taken him. It's been years since that night, but sometimes when I drive near those mountains, I catch a faint glow in the distance. Blue cold waiting. And I know Jake is still up there, just another lost soul drifting through the trees. If these stories from the Appalachian Mountains send a chill down your spine, don't forget to subscribe for more, and share this video with friends who think they're brave enough to listen in the dark.